The work I am critiquing is called Volumetric Form by Hannah Stoker. It is made from black wire that has been bent and twisted into the shape of an animal, I think a deer. The first thing I notice is that this sculpture looks like a sketch that has just been turned into a 3D dimensional object. The wire almost looks like lines from a drawing, except those lines are now moving through actual space. The sculpture is somewhat realistic because the animal is easy to recognize, and I can clearly see the head, ears, neck, body, and legs. At the same time, it is also abstract because the body is simplified and made from loose loops instead of solid realistic surfaces. The main color is black, which stands out strongly against the white background. Line is definitely the most important element. Most of the lines are curved, circular, and overlapping. There's also a lot of negative space because the sculpture is open and transparent instead of being completely filled in. The head and body are more visually dense because there are more loops of wire in those areas. The legs are thinner and more open. The overall mood feels playful, light, and expressive. It almost looks like the animal was captured through a quick gesture drawing. I think repetition and movement are two of the strongest principles in this piece. The artist repeats circles and loops throughout the head, neck, and body. That repetition creates rhythm and keeps my eye moving around the sculpture. The choice of wire really affects the piece. Wire is thin and flexible, so it allows the artist to create volume without creating a heavy, solid mass. The animal takes up space, but it still feels light and almost weightless. The overlapping wire also creates value. Areas with more loop look darker and heavier, while areas with fewer lines look lighter. The head becomes a focal point because it is one of the darkest and most detailed areas. The areas also help draw attention upward. The piece uses asymmetrical balance. The animal is not perfectly even on both sides, and the head turns slightly. Even so, the larger body balances the smaller head and thinner legs. There's also variety in the lines. Some loops are tight and controlled, while others are loose and uneven. That variety gives the sculpture personality and keeps the repeated wire from feeling too predictable. To me, this piece is mainly about showing how line can create form and volume. Normally, we think of line as something used in a flat drawing. This sculpture takes that same idea and brings it into three-dimensional space. That is probably what I like about it most. It literally looks like someone drew a loose sketch of an animal and then pulled the lines off the paper. The irregular wire makes the piece feel spontaneous, almost like artist was drawing directly into thin air. The work is also very accessible because the viewer can recognize the animal immediately. You do not need a lot of background information to understand what you're looking at. At the same time, it still encourages you to think about line, negative space, and volume. The open structure may also suggest movement or fragility. Even though the animal is standing still, the looping lines make it feel active. The form also seems delicate because there is no solid body holding it together. Overall, I think the sculpture is very successful. My first reaction was that it looked playful and simple, but after looking at it longer, I noticed how carefully the artist used line density and repetition to create the form. I think the strongest part is the connection between drawing and sculpture. The material choice supports that idea perfectly. The wire behaves almost like a drawn line, but it can bend, overlap, and extend through space. I also think the piece has value because it changes the way we think about volume. It provides that a sculpture does not need to be solid or heavy in order to feel three-dimensional. One possible improvement I could think is making the legs slightly more defined because they are not as visually clear as the head and body. However, making them too clean might take away from the loose sketch-like quality that makes the piece interesting. Overall, I think that this piece communicates its idea very clearly. It is creative, recognizable, and visually engaging. It takes something familiar, like a quick sketch, and turns it into a physical object that can be viewed from different angles.